Hello everybody, good morning and welcome to the United Stand. I'm Mark Goldbridge and this is your latest transfer news. And don't worry, that little before I went live that you heard wasn't because I'm fed up. It's because I'm a little bit hot. But I suppose I'm a little bit fed up. But also, we have got a lot of new news this morning. There's a big article from David Ornstein to unpick with The Athletic. Fabrizio Romano has given us updates on Watkins and John Duran. Brentford I think have or are about to announce the signing of an Mbeumo replacement. And today is the 1st of July. And I've got a very interesting message that's been floating around social media, which we need to discuss. But it's the 1st of July, everybody. Where's all the here we goes and all the sales? Come on. Were we not waiting for the 1st of July for a madness? Wilcox Wonderful and Barada Bonanza. Where is it? Come on. We've already had 7 hours, 10 hours of July the 1st. Where is it all? I'm joking, of course. I don't think we necessarily will get it. But a few interesting things to get into. I want to go through the David Ornstein Athletic article because it mentions things like Rashford being open to a swap and how that would work. It also talks about the midfield. It gives an update on every potential sale and where we are at the moment. Obviously, we've got that Mbeumo story about them potentially getting a replacement in. Fabrizio Romano is turning into the lady from Titanic by the day with his updates on Mbeumo. You know what I mean. It was 80 years since I was on the Titanic. You know, he's really he's acknowledging himself. He says he knows it's frustrating, but Mbeumo talks are continuing. That's all I can say. We will get there in the end. Anyway, Steve Wynyard says, for weeks I've been saying Watkins, who realistically we could go for. They need the cash, we need a striker, and other deals seem so problematic. Well, look, coming in this morning, obviously we were speculating last night about how old the story is with regards to Watkins. Obviously, it was mentioned by Laurie Whitwell in The Athletic last night. We discussed it, obviously, and there was talk of, inquiries with intermediaries of Ollie Watkins, but we didn't know when that was because it also mentioned Garnacho and Chelsea. Could it be old news that's just put out there? Apparently not. This is what Fabrizio Romano has had to say. It is true, as reported by The Athletic, that United made an inquiry for Ollie Watkins. Man United made a call within the last 2 or 3 days to understand the position of Ollie Watkins. So that changes the story because we now know that this is recent news. Therefore, I think we can say Chelsea and Garnacho is still recent news. Whereas last night, there wasn't really anything about when it had happened. So I think that's a significant step forward. And, James, I'll call him James. He messages us sometimes. Don't know whether we're meant to give his second name away. He sent us a message last night that was very interesting. He's quite a good analytical brain when it comes to football. And he spoke about the midfield as well, which we'll bring later in the show if we have got time. But what he basically said is, I would be very surprised if Manchester United sign Ollie Watkins because we are witnessing in football the death of the final contract player, i.e. the 29, 30-year-old who is looking for a final payday and a big contract. This is why Chelsea are buying volume players on long-term contracts who are under 23. It's the new way of doing things. The real money is in buying younger players now. If you're 29 and you're looking for a final contract, you're basically worthless. No one's going to give you those big wages. No one's going to give you the club that wants to sell them that big transfer fee. And everybody in football knows this. Man United have even said it. They don't want to buy players like that anymore. And here we are talking to a player who is going to be 30 in a few months, who would want a long-term contract on 200 grand a week, and Villa would want 40, 50 million. This would be a real embarrassing backstep by Manchester United to go and buy a player that they basically said we're not buying anymore and do something that football's not really doing anymore. Nobody's buying these sort of players. And the reason they're not buying them is because they're hugely expensive. There's no resale value. And unless they absolutely perform for 3 or 4 years, then you're going to lose money on them because they're just going to devalue. It's like buying a brand new car. The minute you take it off the forecourt and put it on your drive, it drops in value. Whereas if you buy Liam Delap or Benjamin Sesko, okay, you might spend 80 million on Benjamin Sesko, but in 3 years' time, he's still going to have a sell-on value. Even if he flops, you're still going to get 30, 40 million pounds back Watkins, you're not going to get anything back. So it was interesting what James said, and it made me think about it in a different way, because I think Ollie Watkins is a good player. And I think Ollie Watkins is better than what we've got. But I've got to say, I'm sort of leaning back now to what everyone else was saying last night and what James is saying. Financially, it's stupid. It's absolutely stupid. And it goes against what United have put out there publicly. But it also goes against what everybody else in football is doing. People aren't spending big money and big wages on final contract players anymore. Maybe Saudi, but even they're moving away from that when you look at who they're buying. So I don't think this is I don't think this is a goer. I don't think United are going to do this. But what you've got to acknowledge is that Fabrizio Romano is one of the best in the game. The Athletic have got David Ornstein working for them, and both of those outlets are saying that Man United have approached Ollie Watkins, and it makes absolutely no sense at all, because it's just a huge risk. Huge risk. And I don't think it's spin, Porrick. I think it's coming in from people that, you know, would know better than to put that out there. I like Ollie Watkins. I cannot deny that. I'd be a hypocrite if I didn't say that. I think he's a really good striker. I think he brings goals and assists. But I have to agree with what James and many of you have said. 30 in December, 200 grand a week, long-term contract. It's just another nightmare in a couple of years' time, isn't it? When you've got a player on a big wage that no one will go anywhere near and has got years left on his contract. Now, if he signed a 2-year deal and you got him for £30 million on 150 grand a week, you know, maybe you'd do that. But where's Man United are a business? I just can't see us doing this, and I think it would be scrutinised massively if we did. Having said that, the flip side of the coin, and the coin I was looking at, is that would Ollie Watkins fire us into the top 5? In which case, you might look at it there. Hi, Mark. I know you always say it was criminal letting De Gea go, but I think the bigger crime was letting Dean Henderson go. No, I completely disagree, Bulk. It's my birthday today. Hoping for an Mbermo. Here we go, says Broggy. Thank you very much. And happy birthday to you as well, Broggy. I hope you have a great day. I don't think we will get a Here We Go on Mbermo today. Just very quickly on Mbermo, because you've mentioned it. There was a story that came out this morning, and it was from, let me tell you, I think it's in the Mirror, to be fair. Anthony Malambo has completed Brentford medical ahead of proposed switch from Feyenoord. Deal worth 17 million plus potentially 4 million in add-ons. So he's coming in from Feyenoord, obviously playing under Man United, Feyenoord. He's an attacking midfielder. I mean, to be honest with you, I don't really think he's an Mbermo replacement, as some people have been saying. I don't think he's an Mbermo replacement at all. He's a bloody midfielder. Anyway, they've bought somebody, Brentford, apparently. Maybe that's a replacement for Norgard, more realistically. But it could be them getting some business done before they sell Mbermo. I think that's what people are trying to say. So keep an eye on that. On Mbermo, the Athletics article this morning that was written in conjunction with David Ornstein basically says that United are hoping to get the deal done before the start of pre-season, which is next Monday, but they will not be held to ransom. So we're sort of where we were last night with Mbermo, and the night before that, and the month before that, and the year before that. Yeah, it's... I don't get it. We've took 5 weeks negotiating on something, and somebody at Man United clearly thinks that we're being ripped off by Brentford, and we won't be ripped off. If you think we're being ripped off by Brentford, let us know in the chat. I don't think we are. You look at what Chelsea have paid for Pedro. You look at what we've paid for Cunha. I don't think at 60 million we're being ripped off by Brentford, and we're arguing about 5 million quid. So, you know, let's wait and see. But not a lot to report on that at the moment until we actually put in a bid that gets accepted. And I just think, as I said last week, I don't know why people can't own the fact that they were wrong last week when they said that we'd had a deal done. We haven't got a deal done with Brentford. How many more updates do you want? We haven't got a deal done. They haven't accepted 55 plus add-ons. There isn't little tweaks to be done. They haven't accepted that offer, and there are still people out there who jumped too early last week saying, I've heard the deal's done, and when it wasn't done, well, it is done, but it's just technicalities. It's not done. Brentford sporting director said it. David Ornstein said it. We've got another update. It's not done at the moment, and we'll just have to wait and see what happens with it. Rajaf says, what's your thoughts on Al-Hilal beating City? I mean, funny, but honestly, I'm going to defend Man City here. Can I just shock you? I'm going to defend Man City here. This is an indication of how little interest people have in the Club World Cup. I'm not even going to banter Man City about losing to Al-Hilal, because I think they've basically lost an exhibition game in an exhibition tournament that nobody really cares about. The big thing for Man City is they've probably lost about 30, 40, 50 million from not getting through to the quarterfinals and the semi-finals, but who actually gives a shit? I really just don't care. If anything, it benefits Man City because they're not going to be out in that tournament for another 2 weeks. They'll get a better pre-season now. So it could help Man City. Hopefully, it'll help the Premier League do something about the bloody charges, because some people think it's to do with the Club World Cup, why they've not been charged. So maybe that'll happen. Please give Rashford to Fenerbahce. Mourinho wants it, says FB. And Alfred says 60% of the Mexican national team plays in their domestic league. They are relatively cheap too. Same goes for Paraguay and other countries. Why don't we scout them, says Alfred. I know, I loved it when we had Hernandez. Rashford for Watkins swap, maybe, says Zandrim. We'll talk about that. Welcome to Members Club Savage. Nicholas says, Plan A, Delap. Plan B, Gyökeres. Plan C, Watkins. Could be. One thing that has been confirmed by Fabrizio Romano that I think is really interesting this morning, and I'll read this out verbatim. So, basically, John Duran has been rejected by Manchester United. Now, I'm quite relaxed about this. But I think some people, it's Garnacho's birthday today. The only card he's going to get from the United fan base at the moment is a red card. But yeah, apparently it's his birthday today. Someone's just said that. So this is from Fabrizio Romano, breaking news overnight. Man United were offered the chance to sign John Duran on loan and cover his wages, but the club rejected the possibility. So John Duran was offered to Manchester United, and we rejected it. So what are your thoughts about that? He's going to Fenerbahce. I want somebody permanently. So that's my big thing. Also, his wage. I can't understand how a Turkish team are covering his wages. That's my only thing. I understand why you reject the loan, because his wages are going to be, 600 grand a week or something like that, 700 grand a week. Some people are saying in the chat, you can't pay that. But also, I agree with rejecting that deal. Again, I'm sticking up for City, and now I'm sticking up for the Glazers. I agree with us rejecting that deal because you're going to pay huge amounts of wages on a player that isn't your player. So I think that for me, that's probably the right thing to do. I think the Turkish league has something to do with the tax in Turkey is more favourable, says Joku, which makes sense. But I wouldn't go. I actually agree. I mean, it's interesting because it's coming in from Romano that we were offered John Duran, so we have rejected the offer to take him on loan. But we need somebody more permanent. And I actually agree with us not doing that, to be honest. So, yeah, I think we've got to get somebody in on a permanent deal. But interesting overnight, Man United rejected, well, maybe not last night, but from Fabrizio Romano, Man United rejected the chance to take John Duran on a loan, which hopefully indicates that we're looking for somebody on a permanent deal as well. Watkins is a good player, but given what the deal would entail, I wouldn't go for it. Targeting him suggests to me a change of policy to get easier deals rather than good deals done. I think, Patrick, yet again, you've made a very, very interesting statement here. I think one of the things I read this morning was that people are starting to get concerned about what Sir Jim Radcliffe, what Omar Barada, what United have been saying publicly for the last 18 months about this is what we're going to do, best in class, patience, we're going to build something. And are we now starting to see that those words in reality are very, very difficult to execute? As I mentioned on the show the other day, Barada spoke about the transfer window a month ago and said they've been planning it for ages. It doesn't look like a club that's been planning it for ages at the moment. Like we're literally not doing anything. We're just stuck. We're also a club that's publicly said that we're not interested in buying players over 25. We don't want to buy players over 25. We want to go younger. I don't agree with that policy, but they put it out there. And now we're being told by Fabrizio Romano and Laurie Whitwell, two separate sources and different identities with both good connections into the club, that Man United have held talks with Ollie Watkins, who's 30, in December, will want 200 grand a week and a long contract, and Villa will want 40 or 50 million quid. I mean, it's just, as Patrick says, it's a complete change of policy. And if that policy is changing because they can't get the deals done that they want, that's even worse. So if we're going for Ollie Watkins now at the end of June, but we were looking at Liam Delap and Gyökeres, you've gone from a 22-year-old to a 27-year-old to a 30-year-old. And I agree with Patrick. We're moving down the list to more easier deals. But easier deals doesn't necessarily mean good deals, does it? And that's the panic I don't want to see. I would rather see what some of you positive people project, which is that United have got a plan. The window's open till August the 31st. You know, let's calm down. But I'm worrying that the plan they had is failing, and now they're doing desperate things. It reminds me of Ten Hag's first summer, where they panicked at the end of the window and spent £130 million on Casemiro and Antony after the season had started. And it feels like we might be heading down that path again, where they know they've got to do business, but they can't get business done, so they start doing the desperate deals. I'm so glad United are going back to the blueprint of success. Premiership-proven players, goal scorers mixed in with youth from our academy. Love the show, Mark. Keep up great work, says James Black. Thank you very much, James. Hope you're doing well. How is no club interested in our players? Is it just down to exorbitant salary demands, or are other factors in play, says Amat. Yeah. Well, The Athletic listed this out, actually, this morning. So basically, when it comes to sales, Amartya, Garnacho, as of this morning, this is an article that David Ornstein wrote in conjunction with other Athletic transfer experts. So as of this morning, Garnacho, only real interest is Chelsea. Sancho, there's interest, but he won't lower his wage demands. Rashford, there's only loan interest. Antony, there is interest from Betis, but it's a complex operation. Malacia, there is no interest from anybody. Anana doesn't want to leave. Rasmus doesn't want to leave. So that is where we are at the moment with our sales. So in answer to your question, how is no club interested in our players? Well, I think every single one of those, it's about wages, isn't it? Sancho, wages. Rashford, wages. Antony, wages. Garnacho, look, I don't know, he's a bit different because his wage is not ridiculous. But most of it comes down to wages. Anana won't leave because of wages. McKelvis says, once again, it could be panic stations in United's transfer window. And Sahil says, United is having cash flow problems and Burma will happen just before pre-season. Also, United will buy 1 to 2 players for the short term like Watkins. Look, before we move on from Watkins, as a player, I like him. But I have to say, there's 2 things that I have an issue with this morning. One, what a lot of you and James were saying about nobody's spending money on last contract players anymore. They are, worthless because you spend the money and it's gone. You give them the wages and you give them the contracts, and in 2 years' time, you're stuck with them for another 2 years or 3 years because no one wants them and they're no good anymore. So no one's buying those types of players anymore. And United said they weren't buying those players anymore. So why are we looking to buy those players anymore? Is it just desperation? So I sort of agree with that. James Black, welcome to the Members Club. You're a legend. Sahil done that one. And Chuffbridge says, if we don't want to go for last contract players, should that rule Gyökeres as well? Yeah, but Chuffbridge, you could put Gyökeres in that situation. But I put Osimhen and Gyökeres and Cunha and Mbeumo in the sort of just about to hit your prime category. So Mbeumo and Cunha are 25 and Osimhen and Gyökeres are 26, about to be 27. Maybe Gyökeres is 27. 27 means you get all of your 27th birthday in season 1, all of your 28th birthday in season 2, all of your 29th birthday in season 3. So you get 3 years before they're 30. So I wouldn't say they're last contract players per se, because you get 3 years of them in their prime. Watkins is going to be 30 this year, not 27. So you've lost those 3 years. And yes, players are playing into their 30s now, but that flips the other way with the likes of Gyökeres and Osimhen, who could play at the... I mean, look at Lewandowski, still playing in his mid-30s. So I don't see Gyökeres or Osimhen as last contract players. They could have 3 really good years at United, and at 30, Saudi could come in and give you £100 million for them because they're still scoring goals. Whereas it's very unlikely that Saudi are going to come in for Ollie Watkins at 33. So, no, I don't see Gyökeres or Osimhen as last contract players at 27. I don't see Ollie Watkins a bad signing at 29. I just think it's against a policy that we're meant to be doing, and it's a dangerous policy. He could come in and score a load of goals for us in 2 years and be worth it. Tony Martial says, so at first we're moaning that we go and buy players without experience. Now we moan that we buy players with experience. We're never happy, I guess. Well, no, Tony, I just don't think you've listened, have you? You might have come in late. I don't think you're listening at all to what's been said. We want experience, and the signings of Mbeumo and Cunha are really exciting, and so would an Osimhen or a Gyökeres be at 27. But Ollie Watkins is going to be 30 next season. He's going to want a big wage, and Villa are going to want a big fee. Is that the sort of deal we should be doing? It's very different. It's very different. I like the player, but it's got to work financially. The concern now is we want an experienced striker. At what age do you class as that without paying the wage? I still don't think we ever replaced Cavani, says Jordan. Bulk says, hi Mark, I know you say it was... I've done that one, haven't I? Yeah, thank you very much. Just before we move on, let me just catch up on here. Messi on a free if we're desperate, says Steve Woodley. And Dylan Hardman says, morning Mark, hope the family's well. And can I just say this community is beyond amazing and an inspiration to all of us. Thank you very much, Dylan. Hope you're doing well as well. Simon says, any news on the backroom staff? No. What age is an experienced striker, says Jordan? 25. As long as they've played in decent leagues and played, international football, I'd say 25 or above. You get exceptions to that rule, but I'd say 25 in general. Keel says, what we are seeing now is a club that is rushing. We are trying to rebuild with Sainsbury's coupons. Ashworth's plan was logical. We might end up doing it anyway, says Keel. And Sarath says, I think for a 3-year +1 contract, Watkins is a good option if we can bring down the price Villa want. And Slow Sports News says, this is what happens when you run a club into the ground. Ten Hag overspent on players that doesn't suit the Premier League, but didn't we also want Kane as well, says Slope. The Harry Kane story is rubbish. It's the sort of thing I expect from an uneducated ex-player. Harry Kane was never coming to Man United, and Spurs were never selling him to a Premier League club. So I think the Harry Kane story always frustrates me because it's just not logical. It's like talking about signing Anthony Gordon. Like, we're just not doing it. It's not happening. We can't afford it. We couldn't afford it, and Spurs would never have let it happen. I don't really buy the last contract excuse. Always been that they have no sell-on value, but if they perform and get you into the Champions League again, they were worth the buy. Just my opinion, says Chris. Chris, there is no definitive. You've given an alternative that could work, but what the last contract rule is about is that if you buy a player that's going to be 30 and you give him 200 grand a week and you give him a 4-year contract, and after 18 months it starts to go bad, you've got 2.5 years of a player who is 31 on 200 grand a week that you need to offload to bring somebody else in, and you can't offload them. The same way we are with Rashford, Sancho, Anthony, and loads of other players. That's the point. It's a huge risk that apparently we're not meant to be taking anymore. 50 million for Watkins or 65 for Gyökeres, says Fez. And does anyone know if this stadium build is anywhere near starting, says David B. Right, I need to carry on with some news because there's some breaking news coming out that I need to discuss. But on the stadium, it's a fair point, David. What happened with the stadium was there was a big protest that caused a lot of problems for Manchester United. So they rushed out a ChatGPT image-generated press release about a stadium that they haven't even decided on and haven't even had the go-ahead for. The only reason that came out on the Monday and Tuesday was because there was a big protest on the Sunday. So they rushed that out when they don't even know what it's going to look like. They don't even know when they can start it, and they haven't even had the authority to do it. It was pure AI generated spin. It is in, they want to do it, but it's now June and July. It's July and we still haven't started even renting the diggers or mixing the cement. So there is nothing on that. It was what it was. There was a protest and they needed to turn the fan base onto a positive, and it worked, because on the Sunday most of the fan base was Glazers and Ineos out, and on the Tuesday half the fan base was this is amazing, arguing with people saying it's spin. So it worked. That's what they did, and it worked. I don't really done that one from Chris. Right, let me just move this on because there are some other bits that we need to get into this morning. I found this really interesting, what David Ornstein said about Marcus Rashford. So let me read this out to you. This is fresh this morning. Marcus Rashford is prioritising a move abroad if he leaves Man United. The 27-year-old spent the second half of last season on loan at Villa, but they decided against activating a 40 million option to buy. Obviously, the player didn't want to go there either. The forward still has 3 years left on his Old Trafford deal, but does not appear to be part of the plan. So he's got 3 years on 300 grand a week left at Man United. Very strong position. Although a sale would be United's wish, Rashford is also open to leaving on loan or as part of a swap deal if suitable options arise. His entire career has been spent in England, and solutions might come from there before the transfer window closes. However, Rashford currently favours a switch overseas, and one that would enable the international to compete for titles. In the meantime, he will report with the majority of United's squad for the start of pre-season next week. So, look, it's not something we don't know, because we're all dreading this, what I call Donny van der Beek, Andres Pereira walking in the first day of training at Carrington smiling, and you go, oh my God, they're still here. There's about 5 players who are going to do that next Monday, and it's going to turn the stomach, to be honest with you. But this is a failing. This is a massive, massive failing on the part of Manchester United that the manager is going to have to deal with. Look, I think Ruben Amorim, when the season ended, would have thought, silver lining, the season's over, and when I come back in July, I'll have some new players and I'll have got rid of all this shit. He's coming back with the shit and 1 new player. And that is just a failing from somebody, whoever you want to find it out to be. But as per David Ornstein there, and as per anybody else, we all know what Rashford's going to do. He did it in January. He's going to be there at Carrington. Amorim doesn't want him there. He's going to be there, and he's going to be there probably till the end of August. And whatever anybody says, it's not a great situation, is it, when you're trying to build something new? But I did find it interesting about the swap deal, because I'm like, well, who would we swap Rashford for? Like, is there a swap? I instantly thought, not Watkins. He doesn't want to go to Villa and they don't want him. But I thought, well, is there a swap deal with someone at Barcelona? Is there a player we can swap with at Barcelona? We've been linked to that centre-back, Araujo, so maybe we can do that. But I'm sort of struggling this morning on July the 1st for a positive. Or so I thought, because make your minds up about this. This is really funny. Got a bit of breaking news coming out. Literally just come in. Now this, to be honest, if ever Christian Falk needs to be right, it's now. How many times have I said this? How many times have I said this? And this is the ultimate play. The ultimate play by Bayern Munich, if this is true. Now, Christian Falk, say what you like about him. When it comes to Bayern Munich, he's part of the machine. He knows what he's on about. So, Bayern Munich are weighing up a potential move for Marcus Rashford. Now, don't get too excited, but this would be massacre, aggression, you're blocked. Sorry, mate. See you later. Go and find something else to do. He basically said, are we struggling for news this morning? I mean, literally, we've just gone through a David Ornstein article. We've spoken about Fabrizio Romano. We're now talking about breaking news about Bayern Munich. If you don't want to be here, just go away and stop ruining it for everybody else. So I said this a while ago. Bayern Munich, why are they not looking at Marcus Rashford? I mean, you've even taken Eric Dyer. Harry Kane's done fantastically well. Marcus Rashford in a Bayern Munich shirt, they need a winger in a league like that, playing Champions League football as well. I think he'd do really well. I mean, basically, you are the flat track bullies of the Bundesliga. And Rashford, as he would with Barcelona, would do a good job in a team where they're dominant. You put Marcus Rashford in a Man United side that's the best team in the league, he'd do all right. He'd do all right. Where he struggles in a team where he's got to work hard and everything's not going well. But you put him in a dominant team, I mean, it's like putting Danny Ings up front for Bayern Munich. He'd score goals. So I think that Bayern Munich, and I'm not just saying this because I want it to happen, I genuinely think Rashford Barcelona would be a good deal for Barcelona, and I'd be interested to see how it goes. But if it's not Barcelona, I think Bayern Munich, it would work really, really well as well. So I'm hoping that this breaking news from Christian Falk, who is a German journalist, but specifically very good around Bayern Munich, I just hope there's something going on with this because it really makes a lot of sense. They wanted Nico Williams. Nico Williams could be heading to Barcelona. So if Bayern Munich go for Rashford, it's a bit of an up yours to Barcelona who think that Rashford's going to wait for them. So it could work out really interesting. But I also think it would be a really good move for Bayern Munich. So hopefully there's something in that because I think that would be a very clever move and they can afford to do it. So really, really hope there's something in that one. That's just come out in the last few minutes. Some people are saying, is Anthony Malambo a replacement for Brentford's Mbeumo? I think he's a midfielder. I don't think he plays in Mbeumo's position. So Brentford are close to signing Feyenoord attacking midfielder Malambo. Obviously, remember they've lost Norgård as well. But it doesn't. What people don't really need to what people forget is that if I'm Brentford and I know I'm selling Mbeumo for 60, it's in my interest to spend some of that money before, because as soon as I've got the 60, Feyenoord go, they want another 10. So even if he's not a direct replacement for Mbeumo, it's still intelligent to go and spend money in other areas before you get the Mbeumo money. So that it still can be seen as a positive, certainly. I wanted to bring you this in, though. You might have seen this floating around social media. Now, I think this, well, I'll tell you my opinion afterwards. But this has been going around social media a lot. Some of you might have seen it. If you haven't, you're in for a treat. So, Manchester United fans. This was on Man United Updates on Facebook. Man United fans, but it's all over everywhere else. Man United fans, the pain is over. As of tomorrow, today, Man United have successfully bypassed £50 million of PSR. All transfer business this summer will count next season, hence the moderate inactivity. Omar Barada has streamlined the business, saving millions. Players will now be leaving this to give us more funds to add to the kitty. I calculate we'll be able to spend between 150 and 250 million pounds this summer. Mbeumo and Gyökeres will come in, I'm sure. No European football gives Amrim an advantage to prepare for games, so top four should be a certainty. People have actually been sharing this, thinking it's fact. I think it's got more holes than a hedgehog's pillow. Where the hell are we going to find 150 to 250 million pounds to spend? Players will now be leaving. Yeah, how's that going to happen then? Because none of our players look like leaving at the moment. No European football and the money we're going to spend, top four certainty. Absolutely not. Also, all transfer business will count towards the next season's financial fair play. Hence, we will be okay. I mean, there's spin and there's spin, isn't there? And yeah, just it's scary what people believe. I think it was a joke, but yeah, it is very, very scary what some people believe. Of course, when it comes to spend, just because it's a new financial year doesn't mean it's a clean slate. I think some people think because it's July the 1st, everything resets. The debt doesn't reset. The debt interest payments don't reset. The payments we've got to pay to other clubs for transfers that we've done over the last few years don't reset. And unfortunately, that's a lot of money. The debt interest and the repayments we owe on other transfers still have to be paid in this financial year. You can probably write off 150 straight away on those three things. Every year we have to pay that. Hambo says it's hard to trust your sources after Delap. I haven't mentioned one source on this show, and it happens probably once every 2 weeks. So There's nothing I've mentioned from our sources today, so don't know what you're talking about. Good morning, Mark. Hope you're doing good today. It's the new... Anyway, just to go back that on a moment, you don't trust my sources, okay. Garnacho, 100% leaving the morning of the Europa League final. 100% leaving. Yoro, the Sunday before the Europa League final, will start, and Delo will be in the squad. Absolutely spot on. We're not in for Semenyo, and we never have been. Oh, that's right as well. Gyökeres, red hot. Let's wait and see. And Liam Delap was the striker priority. David Ornstein said it again in his article this morning. So I don't know what you're talking about, mate. Every single one of those stories is true. But this, anyway, we're not here to talk about our fantastic source. We're here because I haven't heard anything from them for a while. I hope they're okay. You need to get out of that cupboard. Malambo plays as a 10, but last year we proved to be quite versatile because Feyenoord had so many injuries, says Joe. And Simply Red, thank you, Joe, talking about that Malambo from Brentford. Simply Red says, Ollie not a quality signing, would rather break the bank for Osimhen, Ekitike or Mateta or invest in midfield. Rather play Xerxes as a 9 than spend on Ollie Watkins. I think Ollie Watkins is a massive improvement on Xerxes. I mean, I don't want anybody to leave this show thinking that I don't think that Ollie Watkins is a good signing, because I really, really, really do. I just have that concern about price. And you know what my biggest concern with Ollie Watkins is? It's the ownership. It's as simple as that. Obviously, some people are going to say he's 30 this year, he's expensive, it's a risk, he's not good enough. All those things might be valid. My biggest concern is that the club are panicking again, and they're not prepared, and they're desperately scratching around trying to do something they said they weren't going to do. They said they're not going for older players anymore. And here we are talking to older players. That's my big concern. It's completely and utterly hypocritical, and they've changed their mind. I don't really like... sorry, know that from Chris Judge as well. Talking about the midfielder, let me talk to you about the midfield, because there is an update on that. So this is in The Athletic as well. It's in their morning piece with David Ornstein. It's like a transfer drop. It's a massive article. Just need to find United. I mean, a lot of it we already know, but this, I'm just pulling out the bits that are new. Midfield. Is signing midfielder or forward next more important to Amrim's setup? Even after Eriksen's departure as a free agent, United have still got 4 natural central midfielders in the squad. Casemiro, Agate, Mainu and Collier. And obviously Bruno has been playing in the midfield, and with the signings of Mbeumo and Cunha, you would suggest that Amrim will continue to play him in the midfield, which makes 5. It's easy to see why United prioritised a striker over a midfielder. Obviously, they went for an early signing in Delap, but their bid failed to sign him. And from a depth quality, that approach makes sense because they do need a striker. Amrim would like to reinforce his midfield, but they would need to sell several members of the squad first for that to happen. There has been interest in Enmicha at Dortmund, but no talks have been held with any midfielder as this stage. So I think the midfield situation is what we know. Ruben Amorim would love. I sound like Fabrizio. Ruben Amorim would love to sign a midfielder, but at this time, watch this space. We can't close this door, but United can't open this door. They've lost the key. So yeah, I think that's where we are with the midfielder. Like a goalkeeper, Amorim would love a goalkeeper, but Anana has glued his pants to the Carrington chair and will not leave. Yeah, he would love to buy a midfielder. He would love to buy a goalkeeper, but ultimately, who do you blame for that? I think we know who we blame for that, don't we? Interestingly, there's an Ornstein tweet just dropped here. So let me... You sound more like Dracula than Ornstein, than Romano. I want to suck your blood. There's no David Ornstein tweet, you cheeky gits. I was in the flow there. Where's this Ornstein tweet that everyone's going on about? Can't you just tell me what he said? Just being linked to Watkins makes me lose hope, says Simply Red. I can't see a tweet from Ornstein at all. I'm on his timeline. Oh, here we go. Got it. Shouldn't say here we go when Fabrizio's around. Oh, I've spoken about it. Spoken about it already. He's just tweeting out the article that I've already read. So get yourself on the United stand, because I read his article 2 hours ago. Yeah, it's literally what I spoke to you about. I read it out about 5 minutes ago. I read the entirety of that section out 5 minutes ago. So he's tweeted, Rashford prioritising move abroad. Club wants sale, but 27-year-old attacker is open to a loan or a swap deal. Yeah, we've already done that. Slow Sports News. There we go. Just been okay. I tell you what. I want to go back to. I just want to go very quickly. Go back to the midfield. You know, like I said, James, who watches the show, is quite analytical, and he was saying that we're seeing the death of the final contract player. Like people like Watkins, people just aren't buying them anymore. That's why Chelsea and everybody else, and you know, look at Liverpool's recruitment this summer. All under 25, aren't they? Kirkes, Wirtz, Frimpong, all under 25, I think. Look at Chelsea, all under 23. Most clubs now are buying younger players. Not many people are looking at 29, 30-year-olds anymore. So that we've already spoken about. He also messaged me about midfielders. And he said, shout out to James. This is not my opinion. I'll give my opinion with you as well. He said that we desperately need to buy a midfielder. As many of you have said, James said we desperately need to buy a midfielder. I've been through every combination of midfields we can play next season, and none of them, in my opinion, put us anywhere near the top 5. Bruno and Casemiro, not quick enough, 10th. Bruno and Mainu, not suitable enough, 10th. Bruno and Agarte, probably the best that will play, but even then, would still say not good enough for top 5. So it's quite interesting, isn't it? We've got 5 midfielders, but what combination is actually... I mean, I still think our best combination is Mainu and Agarte. But I sort of agree. I don't think Bruno and Agarte is going to be good enough. I think it's going to be too much work for Agarte. Can you imagine Bruno and Agarte playing against Arsenal's midfield, or Man City's midfield, or Liverpool's midfield? I think it's going to struggle. That doesn't mean you can't have a one-off. I mean, look at the Villa game, last game of the season. Our midfield played really, really well. But across a 38-game season, I think, you know, one-off, you can knock Liverpool out the FA Cup, you can knock Arsenal out the FA Cup, you can win at the Etihad. But across a 38-game season, because what happens is, you say things like Casemiro and Bruno ain't good enough. Opening game of the season at Old Trafford, you win. Everyone swamps it, going, you said they weren't good enough. And then you say, come back in May, playing Bruno and Casemiro all season, and you see what happens. I don't know what your thoughts are on that from James. I sort of... Well, I do agree. That midfield, it's the one area of the pitch I'm quite scared about, because it's the one area of the pitch that you can put it on Amrin. We need a new goalkeeper. If we don't get a new goalkeeper, it's not on Amrin, that's on the club. We need a new striker. If we don't get the right striker, that's not Amrin, it's on the club. We need a new midfielder. If we don't get a new midfielder, that is on Amrin, because he wants to play Bruno there. And that worries me, because that's the one area I have to put it on his shoulders. He has to get that right. Has to make it work with Bruno and whoever it is, because he has decided to do that. Forget the money from Saudi. You could play Bruno as a 10. He has decided that Bruno is a midfielder, and it has to work like it worked moving Scholes into the midfield. It has to work. But we moved Scholes into a midfield 20 years ago. The game's changed a lot. Can you play with a player like that in a midfield 2 anymore? I think this is a big risk, and he has to get it right. He has to. But great point by James. Great point. Let me have a quick look here. What's going on? Busy morning this morning. You know why it's busy this morning? I've played the game. Do you want to know why it's busy this morning? It is busy this morning because it is July the 1st. And a lot of journalists are back from holidays because they know July 1st is big. Unfortunately, There isn't necessarily anything that big at the moment, but it is because it's the 1st of July. Mainu's not creative enough and doesn't have stamina, says Bees. He's been working hard. He might have it now. Love United, hate the ops, says, do you know you're getting cooked for your Garnacho to Napoli by the end of the month tweet? Says, I don't care, mate. I don't care. The only people, like, first of all, the only place I really go and read things is YouTube. So if I'm getting cooked on X or anything else, I won't even read it. Second of all, it will be driven by some jealous person that's been jealous of the United stand for a very long time. And all they ever do is promote us for free. We don't even have to pay for adverts. And third of all, the morning after the Europa League final, we said Garnacho's 100% leaving. 3 hours later, Romano did it. So I know where I'm getting the information from. And I know that at the start of the month, Napoli was the exit route. But things change. They do change. And obviously something has changed. You know, Liam Delap was meant to happen and we didn't get him. But we tried to do it. I would not have predicted that Garnacho was going to be walking around in a Villa shirt in the middle of June. Something's changed. And I don't know what it is. But you know my stance on Garnacho. I think at the start of the month, I would have been, go to Napoli, rebuild your career. I disagree with you being sold. I think where many of us are now is that, you know, if you're staying in the Premier League and going to Chelsea and you're walking around in a Villa shirt, don't wish you all the best anymore, to be honest with you. So he could still end up at Napoli anyway. But something's gone wrong there between Man United and Garnacho, because at the start of the month, it was very, very much that's the place to go. That's the place you were going to go in January. Where it is now, I don't know. So, yeah. But don't worry about it. I'm not going to lose a moment's sleep about being cooked on X. There's more legitimate ways to cook me on X for things I've said. Don't worry about that. It's part of the game, and I've played the game, and I'm not bothered. Mainu's not creative enough. We've done that from Bees. Loan deals, says Mojo, free agents and cheaper players. I don't think we have any other options. The plan was based predominantly on outgoings. Outgoings aren't happening. I think this is a great point by Mojo. You know when Barada said, we've been planning this transfer window for a long time. I've heard people saying not winning the Europa League ruined it. I don't think it did. I think from the end of March, United pretty much shit themselves and thought we might not be in Europe at all. And I think we were planning without the Europa League. I'll give the club credit. I think they had plan A, plan B. I think plan A was, if we win the Europa League, we've got more money, we can do a lot more things. But I think they had a plan for not being in the Europa League. But I think Mojo has absolutely nailed it. I think we expected to sell players, and we haven't. I think, forget not winning the Europa League, because that plan will never know what would have happened if we'd won it. But I don't think the club is falling apart in this window because we didn't win the Europa League. I think Mojo's absolutely spot on. I think it's because we didn't sell players. And I think that was a huge part of what we needed to do. And the biggest mistake we made is that we've been so public about selling players for so long. It's been a year now of everybody's for sale. January, we'd consider offers for Mainu and Garnacho. We've told the whole world we need to sell players to buy players. And everyone's sort of like going, don't buy Man United players early. They're desperate. If you want a Man United player, you go in late in the window. That stops them buying players, and it also means you get a bargain. We've told the whole world we're desperate and that we need to sell. You know what? If you want to buy an Apple iPhone and your local store is desperate, but you don't need that phone for another 2 months, do you walk in today and give them the price that they want? Or do you go, I'll be walking in there in the last week of August and I'll be getting a bargain? And everyone knows we're desperate to sell. We will still move Garnacho, Sancho, Rashford, Antony on, but every other club is doing exactly what I just said there. They're going, they're desperate. Why should we go in and negotiate with them now? We'll do it later. And that's what Barcelona are doing with Rashford. I'll never understand why we told the world we're desperate to sell. And Mojo's right. It's ruined the whole window for us because we're not a club that buys before it sells. I mean, you could buy these players in the knowledge that you're going to sell the other players in August. You could basically go and buy a £60 million player now, knowing that you're going to raise that by the end of August. But we won't do that. So, Slazy said, if we consider Watkins, wouldn't Garassi also be an option? Probably 20 million cheaper and 1 year younger. Who knows who could be an option? I mean, one thing I would say about Ollie Watkins is, and we predicted this 3 weeks ago, remember last season, it was only around this time that we started getting linked to De Ligt and Mazraoui and Agate. In June, we hadn't been linked to them at all. So who knows who we're going to get linked to in the next 2 weeks that we haven't been linked to at all. Maybe Garassi could come into it. Daniel says, as much as I love Bruno, we should have sold him. He's our best player by a mile, but I can't see him in this team without sabotaging the system. Well, that's on Amrin, mate, Daniel. I sort of agree with you, but it has to work. We have to get behind it, and it has to work. Because if you're behind the manager, Bruno in the midfield's got to work, hasn't it? End of story. Fantastic show this morning. We've gone through so much. Thank you very much for tuning in as ever. Fantastic community, the best out there. Really appreciate it. We are back at 2 o'clock and 8 o'clock today, of course. I've got a video on That's Football coming out about 12:30. It's a big one today, actually. There's so much to go through. But obviously, if anything happens with United, we will react. I would hope, being as it's July the 1st, it's not my words, this is some of your words. I would hope, being as it's July the 1st, we're going to start getting some big drops. Certainly a lot of news coming out this morning, but, you know, where's all the sales? Where's all the purchases? Let's wait and see. Thanks so much. I don't think we'll get Mbermo Here We Go today, but then again, I'll keep saying that every day, and one day we will. So I don't know. What about EAFC, says Sir Jim Radcliffe. I need to factor it in this week. It won't be today, but it might be tomorrow. Let me come back to you on that one. Thank you, everyone, today. Really appreciate it. Absolute legends. I'll speak to you in a bit.